Hi everyone, my name is Vendul Kabate. I run a small fabric shop in Manxili, and this tutorial is just for our lovely ladies who are helping us making loads of scrubs for the Suffolk hospitals. And I just want to quickly show you what you're going to get in the pack if you sort of decided to help us, and just a quickly show you how to make the scrubs. I'm not really punctual about quality. I think that they understand that they're going to be getting scrubs from amateur sewers, from people who just do it for the love of sewing rather than being a professional. So do your best. We understand that it's not going to be, professional quality. It's just going to be, homemade, made with love. So if you've received a packet from us, it'll look something like this. So you might have some fabric for the drawstrings. Then you will have a roll with interfacing and all the facing pieces for these scrubs. So what you need to do is just very carefully unroll this, and the pieces are placed on, it doesn't really matter right side or wrong side, but the interfacing has got the glue side up. So what you need to do is cut exactly around the pieces of interfacing and then take it over to the ironing board and iron it over a cloth. Please don't destroy your iron. So this is a glue, and you need to stick it together, but first cut it all the way around. So that's the roll of interfacing, and then you will find your pack. Because it's a dark fabric, it's very difficult to see, but on every single piece you've got written size, the size of it, and which piece it is, if it's a back or a front. It's quite straightforward, so I think you should be all right. It's all written in friction pens, so it will iron away. So if you want to iron all your pieces before, just make note of the sizes of each bundle. Is in most cases you will have however many you ask for, we will give you of the same size, just to sort of make it easier. Occasionally you might have two different sizes, so make sure of the note of the size, and that is where it starts. As you will find out, there will be no fabrics for your pockets. We are trying to use our stash and use some nice, colorful, funky fabrics. Here you can see the sizes. The first number is how big you cut it, and the second number is how big the pocket is finished. You will fold it twice on one edge and top stitch it, and then just once on 3 other edges, and those will be the edges where it's going to be attached to the material. Right, first step, ironing the interfacing onto the whichever side, don't worry really about it, of the facing. Then I stitched the seams together, overlock them together, and overlocked or zigzagged all the way around. The same thing, 2 pieces of the front, just because it has got just because it's a little bit more see-through. So 2 pieces of front with 1 piece of back, the shoulder seams together and overlock them together. Then you take your facing. You will need right side of your garment. The seam allowance on this will go towards the front of the garment. The seam allowance of this is going towards the back of the garment. So then you place right sides together, interfacing on the top, which means that the seams will be going nicely in the opposite directions. And you pin it on the shoulder seams, pin it all the way around, and stitch it together. Right, the next step. So our facing is stitched in place. I somehow, the back part was a little bit more of it there, so I made a little pleat, which later on, once it's stitched over, it'll kind of disappear. Rather than, you know, playing with it, I made the shoulder seams a little bit deeper. The pattern asks for 1 centimeter seam allowance, yeah, not 5/8, but just 1 centimeter, so keep that in mind. So I did the shoulder seam a little bit deeper, so that the facing fits on, and still there was a little bit too much fabric in there. Rather than sort of playing with easing it, I made a little pleat, but you can, you know, try easing it in as well. So once it's stitched in place, what you want to do is you want to do a lot of snips in order to be able to turn it nicely inside out. So once it's all snipped, don't forget to snip the V all the way towards the tip. I actually try to even reinforce the stitching before doing that. And then you just take the facing all the way onto the inside. Press it in place. You know, turn these seams out nicely, and then we're gonna do top stitch all the way around. Now, while you've got this piece sitting like this, some of you might find easier, and you will have quite a few to do. So do it both ways and see what you're gonna find easier. Sometimes it's easier to actually add the sleeves while it's still open like this. So like I said, try it and you will see. On the sleeve, you've got written front, you've got written back, the size, and you've got little mark which marks the center. So as you've got your piece spread out like this, you can then see that you've got back over there. So I will check, all right, this has got written front, so this will be here, that will be on the back, and the little mark will match my shoulder seam. Yeah. So ideally what you want to do is you want to pin the middle part onto this shoulder seam, the middle mark. Then you want to start pinning from the beginning of this curve, and pinning or tucking, whichever way you find easier and more practical for you, or start with pinning and then tuck it. Now what you want to do is you want this first curve, this part of the curve, you want to pin it exactly fabric onto fabric, so that it matches perfectly. And then somewhere here you will realize that there is a little bit more of the body fabric than there is of the sleeve, and that is what needs to be eased in. Yeah, and then you do the same thing on the other side. So you start with the bag, starting at the same place, pinning exactly the first kind of the first curve, and then the rest will be eased in. Yeah. So what have I done since the previous video? I have knitted up the facing, so I pressed it, and then, you know, there are friction pens, there are lots of markers. If you want to mark a nice, you know, even distance from that, mark it and then iron it away, that's absolutely fine. And just top stitch all the way around. I have also attached the breast pocket. To be honest, there is no marking on the pattern. The only marking for a pocket is on the bum pocket for the trousers, but this one doesn't have any marking. I looked at the pictures. It is slightly underneath the end of the V-neck, kind of roughly around our armpit. I try to have similar distance, sort of from the center here and from the edge there. I think that's kind of. But it's honestly, I don't think that it's a science. So I just eyeballed that. I have attached the sleeves, and I have overlocked or zigzagged if you are using both seams together. Yeah, I have zigzagged each individual side seam all the way from the sleeve and the side seam, so on all of them. And I have pressed sort of that sort of centimeter or 2 centimeters roughly. Again, it's not a science. The edge of the sleeve, just pressed it to start with. It just makes life easier to press it. It's easier to press it flat than first stitch it together and then try to press it when you've got it as a tube. Yeah, so I pressed that, pressed on the other sleeve, and I pressed the bottom hem twice as well. So the next step is, again, right sides together. Put the side seams one on the top of each other, and stitch, unrolling my sort of my later on sort of edges. I'm sort of unrolling them for now, and I'm gonna stitch all the way around, matching the seams here, and I'm gonna stitch all the way around until the curve. So where it starts curving, that's somewhere there you're gonna do a good back stitch. Yeah. Okay, so side seams are stitched together, and you can put it on your sort of what's the word? Slide it onto your ironing board. Open the seam up. These little bits will go nicely around, and if you've pressed these already, then and if you're lucky, they will nicely match. If not, you might have to repress it again, or now it's the time to press them. And you're gonna go and top stitch all the way around, coming up across. I tend to top stitch exactly on the spot where it's opening, and actually do several times back and forth, and going all the way around until the next slit on the other side. Yeah, so you can do that as a one continuous line, and then you come back to your sleeves. They are now already pressed, so you just put them back in its position, press this the way it wants to be, and top stitch the armhole as well. While I'm here at the ironing board, I just want to show you, you've got miles and miles and miles of strip of the grey fabric. We will probably use them as a drawstrings for the brown trousers, which we're going to get the fabric next week as well. So with those strips, you can either join them, all of them, into one long continuous strip, and then what you want to do is fold the strip in half, open it, and fold towards the middle, just like if you were doing a bias binding. Press it over and top stitch. You can either top stitch on just one side on there, or you can top stitch on both sides, depending on how much work you want to put into it. And then once you've got this as one continuous strip, miles and miles and miles of it, then we will cut it to the right length depending on the trousers and depending on the size you've got. Okay, and the last step is top stitching the sleeves. After top stitching the sides, as you can see, I did a lot of back and forth, or you can use like a little zigzag if you want, just to really secure that. So the last thing is just to attach a pocket, which is the same distance from here to there. I think the pattern says 3 centimeters here and 3 centimeters there.
I just eyeballed it on one side and the other side the same, and that's it.
Okay, so quick trousers. Start by first attaching the pocket. Like I said in the text before, it's 5 3/4 inches from the top edge, and just center it between these. It's not a science. Then what you're gonna do is, if you put 2 pockets, you are less likely to do 2 left legs or 2 right legs or something like that. So on the back piece where you've got your pockets, you place the front piece on the top of it, stitch the side seams, zigzag it or overlock it together, stitch the inside of the leg and zigzag it, overlock it together, and then overlock or zigzag along just singularly along the is it called crouch, I guess? So around this. Now, once you've got that, you take one of the legs, you turn it inside out. Oh yeah, when you are zigzagging along this edge, just make sure that one of these this inside of the leg seams is going towards the front and the other one is going towards the back, so that when you then take one of the legs and turn it inside out and put it inside of the other leg, so that you've got the 2 crouch seams together, what you have now is 2 seams going in the opposite direction, and you start by pinning these. Then you hold on, so you pin those together, and then you pin along the front, along the back. Don't forget to double up on the bum seam. I usually do it about 1 millimeter along each other, and it's just a double security for them to sort of, you know, have it really secured. So once you've got your, I found out it's a rise, your rise seam stitched, you can then turn in a centimeter and probably a couple of centimeters. I again just eyeballed it, 3.5 centimeters. In other words, this sort of gap, so this is the waist, yeah. In other words, this gap needs to be big enough for your string to put through, yeah. Now for the string to go through, I've now just by pressing it in place, I've marked kind of roughly where this is going to be, and I put the remnants of the interfacing which you got, and I put 2 buttonholes which I will later on open up so that I can put the drawstring through. And also before I finished it, I on the back of it, so that's the back side with the pocket, I stitched an M so that you've got the size which you got. I'm really sorry for the person who's got XXL. There'll be quite a few letters, but I'm afraid I think that even if you write it down with a Sharpie or something like that, that would be just as fine as well. Yeah. So yeah, so that is this, and now I'm just gonna go actually stitching from this side so that I can see where I'm going, and probably gonna do two double stitches, and that'll be that. Turning up the bottom hem and top stitching, and that's the trousers done.